What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to be sharing with you some of the best habits that I've implemented in my life which has helped me live a healthier and better life. I'll be sharing with you how implementing these habits have helped me become less tired during the day, as well as have more energy during the day and also become more productive in my work life as well. With that being said, let's get straight to the video. So the first habit I'm going to talk about is quitting added sugar. In the US and in the UK, an average person consumes 120 to 140 grams of sugar per week, which is 3 times more than the recommended amount. Consuming this extra sugar can have a lot of negative health effects, such as increasing your chance of getting cancer, as well as developing type 2 diabetes and many other things. In fact, studies have shown that just 3 fizzy drinks a day can triple your chances of developing a heart attack. Not only this, increasing sugar has been shown to increase the risk of obesity, which can increase the risk of developing cancer. So for me, quitting sugar actually happened by accident. I was actually nearly about to run out of sugar one day, and I just decided, you know what, I'm just not going to buy any more. And so since that point, I started choosing for low sugar options. For example, instead of having sugar with my tea, I'd choose for sweetener instead. Instead of having normal Coke, I would choose the lower sugar options such as Diet Coke or Coke Zero instead. And if I had a choice to choose between a cake and a donut or a more healthy alternative, I'd go for the more healthy alternative to reduce my sugar intake. Now I know that this means that I'm not completely removing sugar from my diet, because there's still sugar in other foods such as bread, processed foods and other foods that I can't control. So I didn't completely remove my sugar intake, but what I did do was lower my sugar intake. Now I didn't notice the benefit immediately, but I kept going because of the known risks of having extra sugar. And the moment that actually made me realize that there may have been some benefits to quitting the sugar was one day when I drank a cup of tea with 2 spoons of sugar. Moments later I completely crashed and just had no energy left in my system. And that actually made me realize that quitting sugar may have had an impact in balancing my energy levels throughout the day. Now I don't know whether this is scientifically justified, because what we do know so far is that too much sugar is bad for you, but what the science doesn't tell us definitely is that a low sugar diet is necessarily beneficial. In addition to this, zero sugar items such as Coke Zero also have a lot of additives which aren't necessarily good for you, so my best advice is to actually stay clear of those as well if you can. Now the second habit I've implemented is quitting caffeine. So, quitting caffeine has been shown to have numerous health effects such as reducing your blood pressure, improving your sleep, improving your mood, decreasing anxiety, and of course saving you a lot of money. Because some people go to Costa or Starbucks every day, and some even go more than once a day. Which, as you know, can drain your bank account a lot, and you'd be better off investing in Starbucks or Costa stock or dividend paying stocks, which can actually pay you back so you can have coffee for free for your entire life. But again, that's the topic of another video. And of course, I won't judge you for what you choose to do with your money. What I will judge you for is if you don't press like on this video, so if you do, then that would be very much appreciated. So anyway, I got slightly off topic here. Let's get back to the topic of caffeine. And for me, the way I actually started doing it is by trying out a process called weaning. Now what this is when you slowly try and decrease your caffeine intake gradually until you end up taking no caffeine daily. Now, I've got to say, I tried this method and I thought it's genius rather than just quitting caffeine cold turkey, which is the other option, which is just completely get rid of caffeine and just don't drink it ever again, because I thought that this would reduce the amount of withdrawal effects that you'd get. So that's why I opted for weaning rather than cold turkey method. And it was actually a really bad process for me. I kept getting a lot of headaches. I kept feeling tired all the time. I felt like I depended on caffeine to actually start me for the day, and I could just not function properly. So then I ended up reverting back to drinking caffeine like I normally did. One day I was running out of caffeine, so I'd nearly finished all my tea bags, and I just thought, you know what, let me just decide not to buy any more. Similar to the sugar story, I just thought I won't buy any more and I'll go and I'll just finish whatever's left and I just won't drink any more caffeine after that. So after failing to try the weaning method, I thought, let me give it a go cold turkey. And oh my god, I felt even worse. I had headaches all the time and I would just think about nothing but coffee, nothing but a cup of tea. I would just really crave caffeine, but I never gave into the temptation because I didn't have any caffeine around me in my environment. Which brings me on to a very important point. If you want to make effective habit change, then your environment is very important when you're trying to accomplish something, to try and remove the triggers or impulses that lead you to give in into the habit you're trying to form. But anyway, forming habits is the topic of another video, so going back to the topic of quitting caffeine, it did take a lot of willpower and it did not feel good at all. However, this period only lasted around 2 weeks. And after those 2 weeks were over, I actually started to feel a lot better. Before, I would be napping throughout the day and I would just be crashing because I was so tired. But once those 2 weeks were over, I actually realized that I wasn't napping as frequently as I was before. In addition to this, I actually stopped getting headaches as frequently, and I'd noticed that my energy levels were much more consistent throughout the day, and I felt like I didn't need coffee for me to actually function during the day. On top of this, I didn't crave caffeine anymore during the day, and I actually felt completely fine and awake during the day. The best part for me was actually knowing that I'm no longer completely dependent on something for me to actually have a normal working day. And since I managed to get myself out of the dependency cycle, I still choose to drink coffee or tea here and there, but only occasionally, or if I really need it. So I know how highly some of you value tea or coffee in your lives, and I'm not completely bonkers for getting rid of it completely in my life, and I do treat myself occasionally here and there. So the next habit that I'm going to be talking about is meditating. Studies have shown that meditation can reduce stress, reduce anxiety, and actually improve self-awareness as well. However, in order to see the benefits fully, you need to stick for it long term. You can't just stick to it for 2 to 4 weeks and expect to see drastic results. For me, I only started noticing results I'd say 3 or 4 months into when I started doing meditation daily. I first started off by using an app called Headspace for guided meditation, but then I quickly switched over to another app called Calm. And now this isn't sponsored by Calm or anything, but I found Calm to be much better than Headspace because it had an option for me to choose background music, which really made me feel like I was in a forest or jungle, a peaceful beach environment. And it also has an option called the Daily Calm, which is what I now use every night before I go to sleep. I find that meditating in the night is the best time for me because it's the moment when I'm already unwinding and relaxing, and I can fit it into my schedule a lot better than me trying to fit it into the morning, where I find that it actually distracts me a lot more and it feels like I'm not doing anything productive if I'm just spending 10 minutes doing nothing in the morning. But of course that preference is up to you and your individual taste. Now the benefits of meditating are a lot more gradual and hard to see compared to some other things that you can change in your life. However, I also feel that they are a lot more longer lasting. So compared to over a year ago when I first started, I'd say that I noticed that I'm a lot more centered, have a lot more self-awareness, and I also noticed that things that used to affect me emotionally affect me a lot less now, and I tend to see things more objectively. In addition to this, things that used to ruin my whole day seem to have less of an impact for me, and I tend to let go of things a lot easier. And as I said, I also noticed that I'm a bit more self-aware and have a bit more inner peace within myself as well. I think that out of all the habits that I've talked about, meditation in particular was probably the hardest for me to sustain, because you don't see the effects immediately like you do with the other habits. I mean, with quitting sugar, you can see that you've taken sugar out of your life. With quitting caffeine, you know that you no longer drink caffeine. However, with meditation, it's a bit more abstract and it does take a lot longer for you to notice the benefits. So if you want to learn more about how habit change works, how you can implement good habits, and how you can break bad habits, I'd highly recommend reading the book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. This book really goes into detail everything you need to know about how habits work, how they form, how we can break out of the cycle, and how to create a new habit loop. One important takeaway from the book is that on average it takes 66 days for you to form a habit. What that means is if you do something for 66 days straight, then you're likely to form into a habit, and therefore it will become easier for you to carry on. So if there's something that you're struggling to actually maintain into a habit, I'd really recommend you try out the 66-day challenge, which is where you cross off every day that you complete the habit. So if you're interested in the 66-day challenge, I've actually created a free PDF which you can download and check out in the description below. One thing I would like to say is that habit change is a long and slow process, and these habits have taken me several years for me to implement fully, so this isn't something that's going to be quick fixes. It is going to take a long time to implement. But I do think that after implementing these habits, then you're more likely to be able to implement new habits in the future and break out of old habits as well. If you're interested in a more in-depth video on how you can build long-lasting habits and how you can break out of negative habit cycles, then make sure you let me know down in the comments below, and I'll be sure to make a video about that. I do want to warn you that the stuff that I've mentioned in this video are my experiences, and you may not have the same results, so before implementing these habits into your own life, make sure you do your due diligence by researching into these yourself. If you have any more questions or you'd like to find out a bit more about the habits, or if you're implementing or have implemented any of the habits that I've mentioned, then make sure you comment down below as well. If you did like the video, then I'd really appreciate if you can give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, then make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're interested in videos in self-improvement and personal finance. With that being said, thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll catch you again in my next video.